La Présidente.
Wait a few minutes. Good morning. We'll wait one more minute until the speakers enter the room.
Dobro jutro, pričekat ćemo minutu dok svi govornici ne uđu.
So the sitting is open.
Nastavljamo raspravu. Nekoliko priopćenja s naše strane vezano za odluke nekoliko odbora da uđu u međuinstitucijske pregovore sukladno članku 71. stavku 1. Najavljujemo da je otvaranje sjednice 17.
The medium threshold, so the committees may therefore start the negotiations. Now, first item on the agenda this morning is the Council and Commission statements, preparation of the European Council meeting of the 20th and the 21st October 2022. I start by giving the floor to the Minister for European Affairs of the Czech Republic on behalf of the Council, Mikoláš Bek. Mikoláš, you have the floor.
President Metsola, President von der Leyen, honourable members, tomorrow and Friday, leaders will meet in Brussels for the October European Council, starting with the usual exchange with European Parliament President Metsola. Leaders will discuss Russia's escalatory war of aggression against Ukraine and its consequences, including the situation in global food security or the impact on energy prices and on our economy. They will also address relations with China and with ASEAN. Less than 2 weeks ago, leaders met in Prague for an informal European Council meeting to discuss these topics and prepare the ground for the debates that will take place in Brussels this week. The steep increase in energy prices touches all European citizens and businesses and is therefore high on the agenda of the European Council. As we know, Russia is weaponising energy in an attempt to weaken the resolve and economic power of the European Union. We will not let this happen. Building on their discussions in Prague, as well as yesterday's Commission proposal, leaders will speak a strong common European response to the high gas and electricity prices. There is a broad agreement on key areas of action to lower prices, but there are still some divergences on the how that will be for leaders to discuss. I can nonetheless already share some key messages. First, we will not allow Russia's weaponising of energy to weaken the resolve and economic power of the EU. Second, key areas for action will include efforts to reduce demand, to ensure security of supply, and to lower energy prices. Leaders will also address the latest developments in Russia's escalating war of aggression against Ukraine, which is putting European and global peace and security at risk. This includes Russia's missile attacks against civilians and civilian infrastructure in Kiev and across Ukraine, its actions at Ukraine's Zaporizhzhia nuclear facility, and the illegal annexation by Russia of Ukraine's Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhzhia and Kherson regions. Leaders will reiterate their unwavering support for Ukraine's independence, sovereignty and territorial integrity. Ukraine has the right to liberate and regain full control of all occupied territories within its internationally recognised borders. As already stated by leaders on the 30th of September, the European Council unequivocally condemns and rejects Russia's illegal annexation of Ukraine's Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhzhia and Kherson regions. The European Council will call for Russia to immediately, completely and unconditionally withdraw all of its troops and military equipment from the entire territory of Ukraine and refrain from hybrid attacks on Ukraine. There is growing evidence of war crimes committed in Ukraine. We have also seen the continuous destruction of civilian infrastructure in the country. These are gross violations of international law. Leaders are expected to call for holding Russia to account. As you know, the European Union will stand with Ukraine for as long as it takes. It will continue to provide political, military, financial and humanitarian support to Ukraine. Leaders are expected to call for the speedy adoption of the remaining €3 billion in microfinancial assistance for Ukraine. Ahead of the conference in Berlin on the 25th of October 2022, the European Council will discuss the governance and financing of reconstruction efforts. Russia's war of aggression has sparked a global food crisis, driving up world food and fertilizers prices. The EU will continue to facilitate the export of Ukrainian agricultural products via the EU solidarity lanes and global access to agricultural products and fertilizers for the countries most in need. The European Council will also discuss recent acts of sabotage against critical infrastructure, such as those against the Nord Stream pipelines. We will meet any deliberate disruption of critical infrastructure or other hybrid actions with a united and determined response and continue to strengthen our preparedness. Rising energy prices have a big economic impact on the EU. We are committed to coordinating closely our policy responses. Our priority is to protect the most vulnerable in our societies while preserving Europe's global competitiveness and maintaining the level playing field and the integrity of the single market. Another pressing crisis is climate change. The European Council will discuss preparations for the upcoming COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh, and leaders are expected to stress the extreme urgency of strengthening the global response to address the climate emergency in the face of increasingly intense and frequent extreme weather events. Ahead of the 15th Conference of the Parties to the Convention on Biological Diversity in Montreal, the European Council will also call for the adoption of an ambitious, comprehensive and transformative post-2020 global biodiversity framework to halt and reverse biodiversity loss. In the field of external relations, leaders are expected to have a strategic discussion on China. They will also look ahead to the upcoming EU-ASEAN commemorative summit on the 14th of December, which will be an opportunity to further deepen the EU's strategic partnership with ASEAN. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Beck. And now I invite the Commission President Ursula von der Leyen to take the floor.
Thank you, President Metsola, dear Roberta, dear Minister Beck, honourable members. Yesterday we saw again Russia's targeted attacks against civilian infrastructure, and this is marking a new chapter in an already very cruel war. The international order is very clear. These are war crimes. Targeted attacks on civilian infrastructure with the clear aim to cut off men, women, children of water, electricity and heating with the winter coming. These are acts of pure terror, and we have to call it as such. This is a moment to stay the course, and we will back Ukraine for as long as it takes. And we will protect Europeans from the other war that Putin is waging. This is his war on our energy. I know that Europeans are concerned about inflation, concerned about their energy bills, concerned about the winter. The best response to Putin's gas blackmail is European solidarity and European unity. And in this spirit, the Commission agreed yesterday on a strong legislative framework to address the energy crisis. So let me outline the main points to you. The first one is as logic as important. Instead of outbidding each other, Europeans should buy gas together. Very simple. So for this, we will purchase together gas at EU level. Aggregation of demand will be mandatory for at least 15% of the volumes needed to fill gas storages. And the companies involved may form a gas purchasing consortium. We do this because we've learned the lesson. We literally saw in August of this year, at the height of the filling season, how member states were outbidding each other and thus driving really up the prices. So we definitely can be smarter on that one. Pooling our demand is a must. My next point is about sharing gas in Europe. We know that some member states are more directly exposed than others to Russian gas. Situation is especially challenging for landlocked countries in Central Europe. But in the end, if you look at our single market with highly integrated supply chains, a disruption in one member state has a massive impact on all member states. So sharing gas is absolutely critical. Member states have already since 5 years an obligation under EU law to conclude solidarity agreements with their neighbours in a region where they are located. However, if you look at what has been concluded so far, of 40 possible solidarity agreements, only 6 have been concluded. So this is simply not enough in times of a crisis like this one. And this is why we will put in place default rules for member states. These rules will be binding as long as member states do not conclude individual solidarity agreement. Energy solidarity is a fundamental principle of our treaties, so let's bring that to life. It's very simple. Honourable members, these 3 measures, pooling, saving, sharing, will have a positive impact on the prices, but of course more needs to be done. More needs to be done to address the price spikes and to address the Russian manipulation of the energy market. Just to give you 2 figures, compared to last September, in September 2021, if we look now at September 2022, Russia has cut 80% of its pipeline gas supplies since then. But Europe has been able to compensate all that. We have diversified towards our trusted partners, like, for example, Norway and the United States. We have increased the savings, and it's good. We have in September a saving of minus 15%. We have filled our storages up to 92%. So we did not give in to this blackmail. We made it, and I think we can be proud of that. We resisted. That's important. But we also see that resisting the Russian energy coercion comes at a price. European families have seen their gas bills skyrocketing, and our companies are struggling to keep up competitiveness. It's not about the competitive in the single market only, that's also important, but it's also about the competitiveness globally that our companies are fighting for. You might recall that in March we proposed to Council the option to cap gas prices. At that time, this did not gain any traction, but today we're coming back to this. So what is the model? The current benchmark determining gas prices is TTF. TTF is only focused on pipeline gas. What we see now is that the market has really changed from pipeline gas market to LNG market. So we need a specific price benchmark for LNG. The Commission will now develop this complementary benchmark together with the European regulator, but this takes time. So in the meantime, as a stopgap measure, we will limit prices at TTF. We call this the market correction mechanism. Yesterday, we proposed guiding principles as a first step, and on this basis, We will prepare the operational mechanism in a second step. This is concerning the price cap at wholesale level. But gas also drives electricity prices up. And here the Iberian model comes into play. It really merits to be considered at EU level. There are still questions to be answered, but I want to leave no stone unturned. So let's face that, let's look at that, and let's work at that. Honourable members, we live in times of high economic uncertainty. And I am, as I said, concerned about the competitiveness of our economy, not only what the single market is concerned, but also what the global competitiveness of our economy is concerned. So, all our actions have to take this into account. All our actions have to take the competitiveness of our SMEs and our industry into account. And this includes that we will introduce a standard competitiveness check in our regulation. I think it is time to do that. In addition, we have to speed up investments all over Europe. And if I speak about investment, it's infrastructure, it is energy efficiency, and it is renewables. And this brings me to Repower EU. When we proposed Repower EU in March, keep in mind the situation was as such. There was a huge dependency of Russian gas. At that time, we anticipated that it would take several years to replace the Russian gas. Fact is, today, it took us 8 months only to replace 2/3. In other words, we have massively accelerated the diversification to other suppliers of gas from abroad. But this comes at a high price. So the actual solution to maintain our competitiveness is to invest into homegrown sources of energy, especially renewables, and that has to happen in all of Europe. However, only member states with sufficient fiscal space can undertake these critical investments. So this will inevitably unlevel the playing field of our single market. And therefore, we do not only need Repower EU now, so we have to accelerate it, but we have to boost it. We have to increase its firepower, and we will come with a proposal on that because it will give every member state the same opportunity to prepare for the future. This is not only about energy. This is about our global competitiveness, and it is about our sovereignty. Long live Europe. Many thanks.
Thank you very much. Commission President, I give the floor now to the group leaders, starting with the leader of the EPP group, Manfred Weber.
President Metsola, President von der Leyen, Mr. Beck. On Monday morning, Russia attacked Kiev again with nearly 30 drones, killing innocents, including a pregnant woman.